Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Bain. The SVSU football team won the Axe Bowl and now gets set for a nationally televised matchup with Wayne State. We'll review all of that with SVSU head football coach Jim Collins, and we'll also get an update on women's tennis with Jen Boehm. That's all ahead on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, Axe Bowl's always a big game, always a big rivalry, and for another year you get to keep that axe handle painted red.
Sure, nice, JJ. You know, you've got all those scores on the Axe Bowl trophy from all the years in the past, and it's going to be nice to put the new engraving from this year's score on it.
28-20, identical score to last year's contest, but a little bit different in that this one you were at least able to breathe easier for the final minute and a half, whereas last year's went down almost to the final play.
Absolutely, and that was the great thing about it. It was, you know, the score's a little misleading. They scored a late touchdown, tried an onside kick, we got the ball back, and then we were able to run the clock out. But overall, I thought as far as our team playing in all phases, played a great game. A few mistakes like you're going to have on a weekly basis, but the bottom line was I thought it was a complete game from our players, and it was a great victory.
And I thought that the defense particularly played well when you consider how many times they were forced to defend short fields, and the defense really only allowed 13 points because Northwood's other touchdown came on an interception return. Defense
came up big, and you think about it, the lone touchdown that we've given up in the last 2 years was that one that Northwood scored with 1:36 left in the game this past weekend. So I give our defense a lot of credit. That's a good Northwood offense. If you look at the production they had in their first 4 games, it was pretty impressive. And for us to hold them to a couple field goals in some of those situations where they had the short field and then not allow that touchdown until very late, a really impressive performance.
And you know that if your linebackers are busy against the option, that means everything's kind of working the way it should. Brian Johnson finishes with 15 tackles. Grant Caserta has 13.
Well, JJ, the biggest thing about that game is I thought Brian and Grant were very physical. They ran right at those guys, and those guys stood their ground, put their nose in there and played really hard. And, you know, you're going to be productive if you're playing linebacker. But I thought the most impressive thing was the way we were tackling. We were very physical with the way we tackled. We tackled upfield and, slowed down what I thought was a pretty good running attack. And they've got big running backs that are going to come downhill at you. And our guys were in the hole making the big stops time after time.
And then on the offensive side of the football, you get another big week out of your quarterback to receiver combination, John Jennings to Jeff Janis. Once again, 3 touchdowns between those two.
Well, last week you asked me what's going to take for those two to get back in sync, and it was, we had a great week of practice. Those two worked really hard during practice and worked hard after practice to get that chemistry back, and we were able to hook up. The one thing that I thought we did a great job of is John took what the defense gave him. We didn't force any balls down the field. We took the high percentage stuff, and even the passes that we threw for touchdowns weren't very deep passes. It was medium range throws that Jeff either was in the red zone and had the ability to catch the ball in the end zone, or the one he took, he ran about 50 yards with it. So overall, I thought the protection was very good. Did a great job of executing the passing plays. And then we did set up some things with the run. We didn't run the ball a lot of times, and it wasn't for a lot of yards, but we were productive running the football.
And again, kind of mixed it up too in terms of Tim Hogue once again leading with carries, but Ronnie Lark, David Drummond, and then Jamon Martin, who had a touchdown. When they had their carries, they all played well.
That was the great thing to see all 4 guys contribute. And that last drive was a combination of all 4 of those players getting touches. And the other thing about it is Ronnie Lark had a big 3rd down catch during that drive. And we got the ball back with about 14 minutes to go in the game, up 21-13 at the time, knowing we had to do something with it, and put together a 5-minute, 13-play drive. And it was a combination of some great 3rd down execution and great running by all 4 of those guys.
And so that helped put you on the doorstep. As you said, Northwood was able to get that late touchdown to make it close, but you also really made them earn that because I think their drive took almost 8 minutes off the clock. So when they do get that score, they've left themselves very little time, and as you said, they had to go for the onside kick.
And really, that's the approach we wanted to take. We wanted to make sure they earned it. We knew up 2 scores, the only way they were going to be able to get back in the game was to score quick. So we were very conservative. We made sure we kept everything in front of us, rallied to the football and tackled, and did an outstanding job of that. It's unfortunate we had a couple penalties during that drive, that extended the drive. And you look at those, and they were aggressive penalties, and you want your team to be aggressive, especially on defense. And then we had them score on that 3rd down, but I thought we played great goal line defense. They had the ball at the 1-yard line. We stuffed them. We forced a negative play, and eventually they did score, but it didn't allow themselves enough time to get the football back for another try.
I know you also were able to force some turnovers, which also prevent Northwood from getting some points, particularly early in the game. And Jeff Heath finishes the game with 2 fumble recoveries.
Once again, when you're playing an option team, and these are the things we talked about last week, you've got to force turnovers. There's a lot of handling of the football in the option game, a lot of reads, and a lot of gray area reads. And the one thing we knew we could do was force some turnovers. And if we were aggressive to the football, and we were, and Jeff came up with a couple of those, and it was good to see us execute the way we, according to plan. And that's the plan. Make option teams earn it, make the reads indecisive with the quarterback, and hope to get turnovers, and we did.
And on the other side, I know that the stat line will show 2 interceptions. One of them is a pass John would definitely like to have back. The other one, it's a 4th down play where he lofts it up, and even though Northwood gets the interception, they lose 30 yards of field position on the exchange. So I thought that one was a good decision, even if it winds up as an interception.
Absolutely. And we had a chance to get that ball, and it almost looked like we had simultaneous possession of it. But, it was a good decision by John. Throw it up, give our guy a chance. And then it was as good as a punt in that situation. The other one we'd love to have back, because the other one we misread it and didn't execute the way you have to execute in that situation. And fortunate for them, they were able to pick it off and take it back for a touchdown. And you don't like to see that, especially when your defense plays so hard, because statistically it always goes against the defense when the other team scores like that. But we were able to overcome that turnover and still, get the ball back and score right before the half. So I thought we recovered well from that. And, overall, John played an outstanding game.
One of the other things that kind of goes unnoticed sometimes, I thought, was the play of the kick coverage unit, because they were able to pin Northwood inside the 20-yard line multiple times and also really delivered some big hits down there, which, again, fires up your defense when they take the field.
It's a great point, JJ. That's one of the things that I think we've made tremendous strides from last year's team to this year's team in terms of improvement is in the kick-off coverage. And we don't just have guys that will fly down the field, but it is a physical group that really gets excited about making big hits. And you saw a bunch of them yesterday. And what that does is it really sets a tempo. It gets your team excited. And I've always said those type of plays will do a lot more for your team in terms of enthusiasm and excitement than any type of rah-rah speech in the locker room before the game or at halftime. So I thought those guys did a great job, and they've been doing that week in and week out, setting a great tone.
And they certainly set a great tone, and there's going to be a lot riding onto the game with Wayne State now, because you play early on Saturday and get the victory. Wayne State beats Hillsdale. Then Ferris knocks off Grand Valley. All of a sudden you look at it and you've got a logjam for first place up atop the GLIAC North.
And we knew this. We talk about it every week. We knew the GLIAC North was going to be extremely competitive. We knew that there's probably 6-7 teams that have opportunities to win the GLIAC North, and it's a battle of attrition, to be honest with you. You've got every single week. You've got to do the things that it takes to win a football game and hope to stay healthy and keep battling, and you're never out of it.
And that's going to make it very interesting down the stretch, because, again, not only do you have Wayne State left on your schedule, but all those other teams you're tied with for first place are still on your schedule. So as you said, you have to take it 1 week at a time. But as you said, attrition, I think depth really comes into play now, because it's going to be those teams that are able to withstand injuries and other things that are going to allow them to compete at a high level.
Exactly, and I think the way you play each and every week, you're gonna put your team in those type of situations where it's going to be physically exhausting. You need to, and that type of stuff is inevitable at times, and you have to knock on wood and hope that nobody gets injured. But it's going to happen from time to time if you're playing at a high level against good competition. So we can't worry about that. We work really hard in practice, and we work hard in the off season, work hard in recruiting, to make sure you have depth and adequate depth and the ability to replace guys with a guy that's just as good, and he gets his opportunity and gets an opportunity to perform. Maybe he's even better than the guy that was in there. So, it's something at our level and in our league that you have to do a great job of, and that's developing depth.
What does it mean to your seniors to be able to win another Axe Bowl, because this is their last chance to play in this rivalry?
It's big. There's such an emotional high when you win that game, and that's the thing about the short week. You don't get much time, much of an opportunity to celebrate it. But you could see our seniors were extremely excited. Our coaches, we've got coaches on our staff that played in a lot of Axe Bowls, and it meant as much to them as it did to the seniors. So, every year, you get excited for that one, and you get a chance to keep that axe. That's a big deal.
So SVSU beats Northwood 28-20 to win the Axe Bowl. Now they get set for a national TV game against Wayne State on Thursday night. We'll review that with SVSU head coach Jim Collins a little bit later on. But when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU offensive line coach Mike Ancona. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week, Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Mackenzie Fraudle. Fraudle, a sophomore middle hitter for the SVSU volleyball team, has stepped up this season as an underclassman and is excelling in her ever-increasing role in Coach Will Stanton's offense. Fraudle started off the weekend with an 8-kill, 5-block performance as the Cardinals dropped a 3-1 decision on Ohio Dominican. Fraudle and SVSU volleyball program bounced back on Saturday as Fraudle led the Cardinal offense with a team and career-high 17 kills on 42 attacks, a .333 with 4 blocks. Fraudle now leads the team in kills, 161, hitting percentage .324, sets played 64, blocks 54. She currently sits in 7th in the GLIAC in the hitting percentage. Mackenzie Fraudle, this week's Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Bain, joined now by SVSU offensive line coach Mike Ancona. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here, JJ.
And let's talk about what it's been like for your group this year, because first 2 weeks you've got to introduce some new guys who didn't have much game experience, but they were able to fill in. And then you as a coach have the tough chore of then trying to reintroduce guys who were returning starters. What has that whole process been like?
It was difficult, but the young guys were focused. I think we came together as a unit, understood what we had in front of us and what we had to do. And, those guys did a great job of focusing on their technique, knowing their assignments, and knowing they had to carry a load for a couple weeks. And then getting those guys back, I think they have a little something to prove, a little chip on their shoulder, and they're working really hard. So it was difficult, but the guys stepped up. That's what you want to see.
It was bound to happen sooner or later. The first sacks of the season allowed against Northwood, and you got a big smile on your face, right? Because it's like you don't like to talk about those things. You just want to focus on what it's going to take day in, day out, play in, play out. But really, still a remarkable run for this entire offensive line unit when you consider how many times a game SVSU throws the football and how few times the quarterback has been under pressure.
Right. Yeah. We. It's an offensive line coach's dream not to go through a season, not to give up any sacks. And we were week 4, and I realized, wow, we're doing a great job. Our guys work hard, and it's not just us up front. You got to understand the scheme incorporates what we're doing with our hot reads, and the backs certainly play an important role in that, and the tight ends and blocking our pass protection. So it's not just up front; it's the whole offense. And what we do with our pass scheme that allows us to be able to be successful and work our butts off and give that quarterback back there some time to find an open receiver and get the ball to him.
And that really requires coordination as well, because again, you talk about the hot reads, that happens to the offensive line and the blockers as well, because the offensive lineman has to, one, know who his responsibility is, but then also trust that somebody else is going to pick up a blitzer off the edge.
Exactly, and that's something we do from basically day one of camp. We go through a session in practice where we go against the defense, and they give us blitz, they give us pressures, and like I said, from day one, offensive line, the running backs and tight ends are all working together, and you get comfortable. You have that faith that one, we may check out of it and get us in the right protection. Or two, we're going to pick up, we're going to be responsible for what we have and know the guy next to us is going to get his guy, and the quarterback's going to get that ball off.
And that's on the pass protection side of things, but I know that every offensive lineman usually enjoys run blocking even a little bit more because you get to really be the aggressor on that play. And by and large, has done a good job opening holes this year for the running game.
Right, and we got some good guys in the backfield carrying the ball too, and that always helps us out up front. But as an offensive line, you love to take your short steps, choppy steps, get off the ball, move guy. Russ Grimm said it 2 years ago at the Hall of Fame. Nothing better than being able to move a guy from point A to point B against his will, and that's something that we as an offensive line we like to do that. We like to work at that.
And again, it's moving that guy to the point you want him to go to. It's not just always straight ahead. Sometimes you've got to turn him because that's where you need to open up the hole. There's a lot of technique that I think sometimes gets overlooked in offensive line play. The perception can be it's just a big mauler out there, but there's a lot of technique that goes into playing that position.
Right, there is. You got to be able to take the right step, put your body in the right position to make sure you're moving that guy where he needs to be moved. And sometimes they don't want to go that way, So then you've got to make sure you're in a good run demeanor. I talk about a run demeanor, low flat back, knee bend, driving the legs. It's all technique and steps and making sure. And a lot of it is attitude. Got to move that guy. If he doesn't want to go to where you want to take him, and where you take him the other way. And that back, hopefully, we'll see that and be able to cut off of that.
You'll be facing a good defensive front in Wayne State this week. What do you need to do to be successful?
JJ, we face a good defensive front in this conference every week. So they have a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience too. We just got to know our assignments, play aggressive, shoot first, ask questions later, that type of attitude, and come off the ball and be physical, and I think we'll be okay.
Well, hopefully all of that comes together. Mike Ancona, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU women's tennis coach Jen Boehm. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
Saginaw Valley State University, where students learn in personal classroom settings and state-of-the-art labs. Where students make a difference in Michigan's Great Lakes Bay region and study the world. A place where we celebrate red pride. Saginaw Valley State University.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by Jen Boehm, who, yes, is my wife, also the head coach of the SVSU women's tennis team. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Also the head coach of the women's tennis team, yes. Thank you.
And let's talk about your season, because you're right now really in the home stretch, 6-6 with 2 home matches remaining and fighting to get into the GLIAC tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we were in a similar situation last year where it came down to the last weekend, and last year we were able to come out and get fired up for that and handle that pressure. So I'm hoping that, with improved play and really a pretty strong team right now, that we'll be able to do the same thing.
What is it going to take against Michigan Tech and Lake State, 2 teams very close to you in the standings, because these are 2 pivotal matches for your squad?
Yeah. I mean, we had close matches with them last year. Both of them were 5-4 matches. We pulled out the Michigan Tech match, and we unfortunately lost the Lake State match. And they've had, pretty good results. They have had some losses to teams that we've beaten, so that gives us a little bit of extra confidence, I guess, going in. But it's going to be one of those, just like any other match, where it's, what happens that day and kind of what energy we bring to that match. So.
And you've had a lot of close matches this season, a lot of 5-4s, a lot of 6-3s. You've won your share and lost your share, but it seems like the team week in and week out is really competing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be more proud of how they've competed. They've come out and really, I think, shown that, well, one, we're not alone in this 5-4 result pattern. We've had, I think, more 5-4 results across the GLIAC than I've seen in a really long time. So the conference itself is getting stronger, and I think each team has kind of had their share of wins and losses with those. But I really feel like what our focus will be for this week is how do we respond. We had a tough 5-4 loss yesterday against Hillsdale, who is a great team, and it's just, we can't really dwell on the what ifs, so to speak. We have to really focus on what was positive and how do we take that forward into our next matches.
I know that building team chemistry is a big emphasis of what you do in your program. You've got one player from China, one player from Prince Edward Island, Canada, but then you've also got local products from Bay City Western, Essexville Garber, and Midland Dow. How do you pull all of that together into a unit?
It's been a challenge because a lot of, especially the players who came from outside the country didn't have team sports, going into this. So, kind of just rebuilding from the ground up and saying, these are the fundamentals of what great teams do. We've kind of looked at examples of great teams and say, how can we implement some of those things into our team? And, the girls have really responded. I think they have to buy into it and believe in it. We can preach it as coaches all day, but they've really bought into it and they really have responded. And I think we're a very tight-knit group, so.
Talk about the seniors that have been part of this program, because I know these last few matches are obviously going to mean a whole lot to them.
Sure. We have 3 seniors right now, and all of them are competing in our lineup and have, had key matches throughout the season and really have brought, I guess that sense of urgency to our team too. They feel it. They know that these are some of their last chances to play, and they want to get the team rallied behind that movement to try to really inspire them. We have to get that idea for our younger and upper or underclassmen to really do this for the seniors as well as themselves.
And as you get ready for these last 2 matches and then hopefully get ready for the GWIAC tournament, what do you most want to see out of your team? Because it's interesting, you have an individual sport in a team format.
Right. And I think our focus has been team the whole time. It's accumulation of individual efforts, and what we can ask of them is that every day they give the best of what they have that day, and try to inspire and motivate each other to give the best, because obviously everyone's not going to be perfect and play their perfect match every time they come out. But our captains, our seniors, and really our whole team has been really bought into the idea of, let's inspire each other. Let's do this as a team. We win together as a team. We lose together as a team. It's not one person.
Well, good luck in your final 2 home matches against Michigan Tech and Lake State, and hopefully good luck in the GLIAC tournament as well.
Thank you.
That's SVSU women's tennis coach Jen Boehm. When we come back, I'll be rejoined by football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's male Spring Hill Suites Athlete of the Week is Tyler Noble. Noble, a senior runner on the SVSU men's cross-country team, has been a strong leader for the Cardinals as he has finished as the top SVSU runner in the past 2 events. Noble paced the Cardinals at the Lansing Community College Invitational 2 weeks ago with the 5th place finish in a time of 25:47. The Cardinals also took first place in the team competition. Noble also led the men's program at the Michigan Intercollegiate Championship with a 17th place finish as he completed the 8,000-meter run with a time of 25:22.8. Noble has finished in the top 2 in each of their 4 events so far this season. Tyler Noble, this week's Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, rejoined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, short week for you getting ready for Wayne State Thursday night, but I know that you're always excited to have these opportunities to showcase your program.
Absolutely, and this is a great opportunity 2 years in a row to do that, and we really enjoyed last year's opportunity and looking forward to this one. And I think CBS does a great job with their telecast and makes it really professional for the viewers that can't come to the game and see it in person. So our guys are definitely excited about it.
And these are the two teams from the GLIAC who made the NCAA postseason last year, SVSU and Wayne State. You lose in overtime to Duluth, but Wayne State, the last team to get into the field, made quite a run, went all the way to the national championship game.
You know, you have to really respect what they did last year and really have great respect for their whole program. I think Paul Winters has done a great job, and they follow a simple formula: play great defense, run the football on offense, protect the football. They don't turn it over very often. And, you know, that formula worked for them well last year, and it's a great challenge to play that team.
What will you have to do against this Wayne State team? Because as you said, simple doesn't mean it's easy to defeat them.
Sure. And, you know, last year's plan was pretty good. We prevented the big play. A similar formula that we used against Northwood, made them earn it and made them drive the field. And I think when you can play defense like that and not give up the big play, you've got a great opportunity to hang around. And that's what we did against them last year. We hung around early. We played them down there, hung around early, gave us a chance to get settled down a little bit on offense. And then, you know, offensively, you have to make the most of your opportunities. And when you have something there, you got to take advantage of it. But the biggest thing that I think of is you can't turn the football over, because Wayne's not going to turn it over. They're not going to give you the football. So you've got to do a great job protecting it and being opportunistic.
And this is a Wayne State team that lost a lot of players off of last year's roster. It's a very senior-laden group, but there's always something about going through that late playoff run that I think adds a lot to those guys who may not have as much game experience when they come back the next year.
Absolutely, because you look at Wayne's season last year, they played 5 extra weeks. So that's 5 extra weeks of practice, 5 extra weeks to develop that depth on your football team and get guys experience. And then obviously when you're practicing against good people, you may not be playing in the games, but you're practicing against good people, you're going to get better because of it. And they've got a great foundation there. So, you know, they're going to replace, they do a good job recruiting, they do a good job of their off-season program from the things I've heard. So they're going to replace good people with good people, and just like we are. So once again, I think 2 great programs, opportunity to showcase what they have on national TV, and a lot riding on this football game.
A lot riding on it, as you said. Again, both teams tied in the GLIAC North. Both teams are nationally ranked. Both teams with very close losses to teams in the GLIAC South. You lose because you can't make the 54-yard field goal at the end against Findlay, and Wayne State just barely lost to Ashland.
You know, and I think that's what the league's all about. You look at how many close games you're going to be in and week out, and they've had a few close ones. Last week, the one Wayne against Hillsdale was a close one, and really decided by turnovers. And so, you know, you've got to stay mistake-free, or at least as close to mistake-free in a big game like this as you can. And then also you've got to match their physical play with your own physical play. So going to be a great game. We're really excited for it.
Football players, football coaches like their routines. You go and you play a Thursday night game, it disrupts your routine. What have you been doing to try to make sure that you get your team prepared, number one, and number two, how much does it help to have gone through this last season?
It helps a lot, because I think we had a good plan last year of making sure we recovered physically, but had a lot of mental practices. And the formula worked for us last year, and our guys were fresh when they showed up for that game last year on a Thursday night, and they were ready to play. So it definitely helps having that experience of having done it before. The other thing that I like about it, to be honest with you, is you get to come off of that game you just played really quick. Whether you win or lose the game on Saturday, you only have 5 days to prepare for the next opponent, so you got to forget about it and move on quickly. And that's what you want after an Axe Bowl victory. You don't want to have that hangover of thinking about the Axe Bowl for 3 or 4 days and have it disrupt your next. You want to get it out of your head immediately and move on to the next one. So I think this Thursday night game comes at the right time.
Well, hopefully it comes at the right time and once again gets the right result for Saginaw Valley fans. Coach Collins, good luck.
Thanks, JJ.
That's SVSU head coach Jim Collins, and we hope you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.